OWWR Pod. And by that, I mean on Wednesdays we read. I'm Hannah.
I'm Laura.
And we are two friends who usually do a deep dive into a new book series, one book at a time. But right now we're headed out because it is TV Tuesdays.
We are not reading.
On Tuesdays, we TV.
On Tuesdays, we talk about television. I don't know another way to alliterate watching.
No, I just said out because on Tuesdays, TV.
Yes.
We're headed out. So today we are discussing season 1 or series 1 of
Series
Doctor
one.
Who.
It's British.
It is British, so we have
It's
to
British.
say series 1.
We're talking like while I'm already going into an Australian accent. Tried too hard. We're talking like wild animals like Rose because someone said that to her about her accent.
Oh, that's so the way people.
Do you remember
just,
the episode that they said that to her? What was it? It was one of the
earlier ones?
it was the Charles Dickens episode.
Yeah.
There was a side character that was like, "You look like a lady, but you talk like a wild animal." And I'm like, what?
Was it because she has a Cockney accent, right?
Yes.
Yes. So Billie Piper has a Cockney accent, and so
in no way, shape, or form do I think that she talks like some kind of wild
she sounds
creature.
Great.
I was just baffled by that. And that's not a direct quote, but I just remembered that kind of comment being made to her, and I was like, seriously? Odd.
Well, so I rewatched series 1 for this episode. Laura,
I'm not as fresh.
No, you're not as fresh, but Laura, this is your first run through of Doctor Who. So
yeah, I watched it for the first time summer 2023.
And Laura, I've been like begging her to watch it for years and years. She finally did it, and that's why we're kind of talking about it on our first TV Tuesday. That's like official, that we're trying to make part of our repertoire. So
and what better place to start than with the Daleks and the Blow-Gons and
oh my gosh, the Slitheen.
Honestly, I do like, just throwing it out there, I am surprised at myself that I was able to like plow through this first series because honestly, animation wise and like the looks of it is rough. And I am kind of a TV snob anymore, where I don't like to watch a lot of older TV because I'm so used to things looking so nice and pretty and a little bit cleaned up that I kind of am a little harsh where I'm like, not feeling it.
Well, okay, so we're going to get into a little bit of background for people who haven't looked up Doctor Who knowledge lately. Doctor Who was originally a show that ran for many, many seasons up until 1989 when it was canceled, and then it was brought back. This was the first series of it being revitalized.
In like early 2000s, right?
2005. It premiered in 2005 with 13 episodes. We have David Eccleston. It's David Eccleston, right? I put Eccleston like I would know what his first name was. Like we're
it's
good friends.
Chris Eccleston.
I'm sorry, Chris Eccleston. Thank you. Chris
David Tennant is the 10th Doctor.
Where I got it. Chris Eccleston as the Doctor. His companion this season is Billie Piper as Rose Tyler. With a few extras thrown in there, such as Adam, and then John Barrowman as Jack Harkness, and Noel Clarke as Mickey, who is not one of the companions, but he is one of the main.
We'll get into
it. So, it was premiered in 2005. Chris Eccleston was kind of like a third or last choice of the Doctor.
I'm surprised by that because honestly, he is so good. Like, I really love him as the Doctor.
I mean, I'm glad they picked him because he was amazing in this series. And it says like he kind of reached out and asked via email to become the Doctor. And that's kind of how he got on their radar.
They should have pulled a Lord of the Rings and been like, no, you don't get to be Gandalf. Saruman.
Because you asked. How dare you? You get to be a Dalek. And that is all.
That would have been even funnier.
But yeah, so that's a little bit about the background. But this was 2005. It is a British television series, and it
centers around the Time Lord Doctor Who is the last remaining member of his race after a big time war with the Daleks,
which was not
enemies.
canon before 2005. Like it
Oh, it
was
was
no, no,
not.
no, no. This was actually like a
Hmm.
huge surprise. There were other Time Lords in previous series. So this
Hmm.
was a very unique experience.
So
So a
how
lot
did
of
they,
people.
well, let me just ask first,
Mhm.
have you watched all of the older ones?
I have not watched the older ones. I watched them
Okay.
off and on because they were available on HBO Max for a
Hmm.
while.
I don't
Um,
think I can force myself to do it,
it was really
honestly.
rough. And
Yeah.
like, I mean, you're just watching something with like zero context
Yeah.
because you have a lot of ties to,
Hmm.
I think I should have tried later seasons. I think I tried one of the earliest iterations and that was
Okay.
rough. I think if I maybe went back to the 70s and 80s, I would love the campiness enough to like get through it, but I haven't tried it yet.
Okay.
Um, but no, they did have like the doctor had companions who were like he had like family members types things, and so it bounced around a little
And
bit.
they
So
had changing doctors as well.
yes. So a
Interesting. Okay.
huge part of this Doctor Who and part of the Time Lords was they did make it so it could be a continuing series by saying Time Lords regenerate.
Hmm.
Each time they die, they get reborn pretty much into a new person. The new person can have different personality traits. They're still like within themselves, but it's a rebirth in certain ways.
Okay.
So they're still fundamentally themselves, still fundamentally good, still fundamentally like parts of themselves, but
Hmm.
parts of them have changed. So that allows
Okay.
each iteration to have their own zaniness or own like type of doctor. And so each one gets to kind of find themselves throughout the series.
Okay.
No. But the Time War was an iteration that was brought about in 2005. And that is a huge thing that has been built upon. Like the Daleks were an original big bad. And like having
Which is
this
baffling.
it's so funny when you see them because you're just like really and it's just like oh yes
Oh
this was
gosh.
created very early on and they did not have
Let me
technology so
just
they were
say that
like what's
their
scary.
headquarters, I don't know if anybody remembers that show Teletubbies, but their headquarters and the Daleks, they're pretty much like
They should
part of the
start
Teletubbies
looking
set.
they should start looking for Ping Ping or what I forget the
I don't
Teletubbies names.
remember
Uh
the last one
Poe.
is
I remember
Lala and Poe. I don't
Poe.
remember the other
Yeah, they got to
ones.
go look for Lala and Poe. Yeah, the Daleks are very silly, but they were like an original iteration, which I think is some of the Doctor Who charm almost, where you
Yeah.
have these like older aliens that like were brought about way back when, and they're like,
But they had
well, we have to do it.
such good other aliens though, is the
I know.
thing.
So, yes, this was the Daleks were always the big bad, but this was a new iteration and it kind of darkened the Doctor a little bit and made it like a more of a continuing story of like the
Yeah.
Doctor like in
I just have
season
a hard
1.
time with the Daleks.
I mean, it's so the episode with the Daleks, the first episode of the Daleks is incredibly funny because they do just
Yes.
sit there making fun of them and then they're like, "Oh no,
Yes.
they're scary." They're like, "We're going to beat them with stairs." And then they
Uh-huh.
can lift themselves
Push
up
them
because
down.
of course they can. Um so yeah, that's a little bit of the background.
Hmm.
Um but yes, Laura, you're correct. This was a 2005 show. They weren't sure
Okay.
how it was going to go. So there was quite a bit of money thrown into this
I
series,
mean,
but like not in the
it's
special
one of those
effects.
series where it's like it looks like they invested a lot of money, but at the same time, none. And I don't
Yeah.
know another way to describe that because maybe
Yeah.
it's like the cinematography of it all that doesn't look. It looks like somebody was just like, you know,
Well, and they had them traveling
standing there
around a
with a
lot.
camera that wasn't too professional. I don't know because they were like, we spent all the money putting together the Daleks and these sets, so
I think they spent a lot of money on the sets. They spent a lot of money on travel. So then,
well,
like,
and the
when it got
TARDIS
to, and the
too.
TARDIS, yeah, the TARDIS is a huge part and element. So, our impression for this TV Tuesday is that you've at least seen season 1 of Doctor Who because we will be
Yeah.
spoiling most of it.
I mean, we're gonna
Um,
spoil all of it.
yeah.
So,
Well, I mean, we're
but
not going to do like an
also,
episode
you
by
know what?
episode
It's your fault
breakdown.
if you haven't watched it by now. Like,
Okay, miss, I watched it in 2023 and now I get
I
to judge
wasn't
everyone
upset
for not.
about Doctor Who spoilers. People were spoiling all the time. I know stuff that happens in some of the more recent seasons.
That's fair. I actually have kept myself pretty like ancillary from like newer seasons because I haven't caught up fully yet.
I
But
feel
yeah,
like
you
if you
can.
just like keep it out of your radar, like I have, you don't come across it too often. It's just like
Right.
every now and then when something new occurs, then people like spoil something for you, and
Hmm.
then I forget about it.
That's very fair. So, yeah, this was a very interesting first series. A lot of people, what were your thoughts on Rose, Laura? Because like this was your first like experience.
I mean, I don't mind Rose,
Okay.
honestly. I think she's fine. I Are people kind of divided on her?
A lot of people are like they adore her, or there's it's hard because like there's some people who are like anti-Rose, and then there are some people who are like, well, she's fine, but like really you have to go towards these other companions. And like everyone has their favorite companion,
Mhm.
everyone has their favorite doctor. And
I
I feel
I
like
feel like in this season, especially, there's less of a I get less of a like they're a couple vibe than I do. I've already watched season two, but
Mhm.
there's much more of the they're gonna be a couple in season two, and in series one, I feel like I wasn't getting as much of the romantic vibes.
Yes.
So I wasn't as bothered. And usually we have talked about this before on the pod that I usually am bothered when it's like this is a 200-year-old being who is with
Hmm.
a young girl. And I guess I saw it as more of like a mentor type situation in this, but then it does at times get a little flirty, which can be
Yeah.
uncomfortable. But what are the reasons that people are like kind of anti-Rose? I guess I don't
I
get
think
it.
a lot of people find her annoying. I think
Well, I
because
think
she
that's just the
was,
actor, honestly.
yeah, she got a lot of flack for being annoying. It should be known that like Billie Piper came on the scene like onto the show as a pop star, so I think
Mhm.
like there are a lot of
So she already had a lot of notoriety.
specific things, and so I think a lot of people like either loved Rose or hated her.
Mhm.
But a
I
lot
feel
of
indifferent, honestly.
okay, and maybe that's also like she's your first companion. Have you gotten to any other companions yet?
No, I've only watched series one
Okay.
and two.
So that is also interesting because like you don't have anything to compare it to. Because like I
Right.
always loved Rose, but I'm also like a huge David Tennant person. So like their
hmm
companionship was
hmm
always really great for me. And I also watched it when I was in college. So this
hmm
rewatch, I am now an adult. And there are things where like you were like, well, I didn't really I also got more of a like mentor mentee
Yeah.
relationship or like it's actual companionship.
Yeah.
Um and the worst parts were when it got romantic and I was like, ew,
Yeah.
he's like 29 and
Well, and
you're
he
like
looks so much older than
he looks
her.
so much older than her. And so and like it should be known that Billie Piper was in a relationship at this time with a much older man.
Oh, okay.
And so I think like that's a little it's always hard. Like she got married to a man who was 35 when she was 18.
Oh,
Um
wow.
yeah,
Okay.
and so it had a lot of like so I think there was like a certain energy of her. So I don't know if that went into anything, but my
Okay.
least favorite moments were was when they got romantic, like the
Yeah, when they
final
were like
scene where
kissed
they
and stuff and like
yeah.
let me suck all the bad stuff out of you.
uh,
Okay.
I was watching this with my partner, and the line where he goes, "I think you need a doctor." He always goes,
Oh,
"Such a great
that
episode, such a
what a
bad
major
line.
groan.
What a like, why did they write that? Why did they
Major
make him?
groan at that.
Why was that one of his final lines in the
Yeah, that was
entire series?
so
Like
dumb.
that poor man." But yeah, I was just wondering because like this is your first companion.
Mhm.
You've only experienced two different doctors, and you really like Chris Eccleston as a
I
doctor.
do,
Like I think he's your
honestly. Like,
favorite between the two.
well, I don't have that much David
Mm,
Tennant
that's
experience
fair.
at this point, and it's such a huge shift that I
Yes.
really was kind of a big fan of Chris's like tortured soul
Hmm.
type because it's very much a theme within this where they're looking at like being the only one of your species traveling the world or traveling the universe alone and contemplating like death and existence and the things that we can do to save our worlds.
Hmm.
And I feel like Chris Eccleston just really handled a lot of this, like very much like showing the expressions of how the doctor would feel about these
Hmm.
things. And he was just really a tortured soul, like kind of you could see him absorbing all of these different complicated things that were happening to him being the last of the Time Lords. And I just think it was so well done. And every now and then, he would get in a good quip or whatever. But
Yeah.
I do appreciate that it's more of a serious take on something that actually is quite serious, what he's dealing with.
I think I got that a lot more on this rewatch, where you get that
Mm-hmm.
sense of like tortured soul. You get that sense of like, I am
Yeah.
the final person. And like, once I am gone, there is no one. And I also really enjoyed like how much he really wants Rose to travel with it. Like, he keeps making
Yes.
mistakes and he like tries to laugh it off,
But he
but then
doesn't want to be alone.
but he's incredibly afraid she's going to leave him. Like, in every
Mm-hmm.
episode where they return home, he's like, okay, are you staying? Like, are you staying?
And
And
she's always just like, "You're afraid of another man in my life?" No, he's
uh
incredibly lonely.
yeah, he's
He needs a
incredibly lonely.
therapist.
The doctor probably needs a therapist in all moments in life.
Gosh.
um, yeah, but I do really appreciate that. Like, as an adult, I feel like when I
Hmm.
first watched this, I watched it more for like the love story and the two people like finding each other, and I thought it was so cute. And then as I watched it as an adult, I'm like, oh no, these are like deep, deep themes
But
and
he also has
heartbreaking.
like so many, like in almost every episode, he has like a monologue of sorts,
Mhm.
getting into something deep, whether it's about existence or climate change or, handling death of a loved one. He is delving into these topics, and the way that he talks about these things and the way that he delivers these monologues is really impressive, honestly.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of sad that he hasn't had more like bigger roles, because I'm like, the only other thing that I know of him in that I have seen him in is that crappy Thor movie.
That poor man. He
And
is.
that's disappointing.
So I will say that for a while, he states that he was blacklisted by BBC for leaving the show.
Well, that's stupid.
Um, and like the back and forth that they had with each other, where like he said like they were not happy with him and he was blacklisted. But
Well,
he is a
that's too
pretty
bad.
like he is a pretty prominent actor. Even though like
Maybe I just
we're
don't know of a lot
American.
of his shows is the
Um,
big thing.
but like he's been on a lot of different like movies and television shows and things like that. He was on Heroes. Forgot about
Oh,
that.
I forgot
Uh
about that, and I had watched that show.
so he's been in different things like throughout time and like different TV shows, but he did say that like it was a little bit hard, and he was very much a stage actor, which I
Okay.
think tracks when you watch his
That makes a
acting.
lot of
He
sense to
is
me, actually, like when you see the performance that he gives, that a lot I always say this to my husband all the time, where I'm like, Broadway actors are better actors than other actors.
it
Like
depends on what type of acting.
whenever they're in a TV show or anything like that, they always seem to deliver a better performance, in my opinion.
I love what's her name from Younger. She is a Broadway actress, and uh she's okay. She's a little bit too big when she acts.
Well, yeah, there are
Sutton
a lot of
Foster, Sutton
bigger
Foster. She's
emotions.
such a
Oh yes,
bigger
Sutton Foster is
actor,
amazing.
but like she's an amazing actress, but like when
But
you
you
watch her
have
on
to be
TV,
bigger on
you have,
stage.
yes, but she like doesn't play it down when she goes onto the TV
Mhm.
screen, and it's like, honey, you are on a TV screen. But
The only
so like
instance where I do think that somebody who is like a Broadway actor, where I'm like, they maybe need to tone it down a couple times when they're in some of their movie performances, Hugh Jackman with
oh
a
my
lot of
gosh.
his like singing and stuff. I'm like, oh, like, okay, calm down.
This is the greatest show.
I am. Oh, like, oh my
Yeah,
gosh, jeez. It's not
totally fair.
opera, Hugh Jackman.
So yeah, I think he's like a theater actor, and I do think that adds like a little
Yeah,
bit to his performance.
makes total
Um,
sense.
I also do like I really just didn't appreciate the themes of the first series the first time I watched it.
Really,
Like,
I feel like watching it now, I was like, wow, this is like really like applicable to today's world
no, it
so
is.
strangely.
I believe it was either in college or law school. So like imagine the time you're in. You're just
Mhm.
watching like TV shows not for
You're
the
just
deep
trying to zone
analysis.
out.
You're trying to zone out. So I'm like, okay, farting aliens, cool.
I love that that's what you took away.
uh so I do think there were parts of that, but I really loved like in these seasons there is a lot of like back and forth on what it means to be like empathetic, what
Mhm.
it means to be like we always say like humanity, like part of humanity, even though that means like sometimes it's not actual humans, it's just the term that we use as a society. But like what it means to be a person with empathy and compassion and
For
like
others.
for
Sure.
others, because I do think we see a lot of the Doctor going back and forth on that. There are like episodes where he's one of the most empathetic people, and then like other episodes where
Then
he's
the next
incredibly
episode he's
shut
like,
down.
kill the Daleks.
Yeah. And he's like, they can't be trusted. And I do enjoy that because he has like the foil of Rose, who they have said, like, I've done some research for the episode, guys. Don't at me. But they
Hannah's an
said that like
expert.
she was supposed to be kind of the perfect companion in the first season. So like she always brings it to like, people are fundamentally good, and we have to, and we can't kill the Daleks because what if it has feelings and stuff like that. And that's like a very unique situation to have with this type of
Sure.
Doctor, who's like a little bit more shut down, a little bit like, and there are moments where he's incredibly hypocritical, where like
Yes.
in one episode he's like, everyone gets to live, and then the next one he's like, kill the Slitheen, it's
Yeah, he's
out
like,
of
let's
my
just kill
hands.
all the Slitheen's like that. We don't care about them. Like, what?
And I really enjoyed the third Slitheen episode. The first two are not my bag. They didn't
Honestly,
get.
I'm not a big fan of any of the Slitheen stuff.
No, I was a
But
fan of the conversations with him and the
yes.
woman.
Yes.
Um,
That it like the main
yes.
Slitheen. Yeah, that
Yes.
is I think the best part of it all, the takeaways of it
Yes.
all. And you have to have those because it just connects all the other stuff.
Hmm.
But as far as like the Slitheen's themselves, I
I
didn't
really hated them as
honestly
bad
care about
guys.
them.
No, no,
Uh
no. I hated
oh,
them as bad guys. I
whoops.
thought those were some of the worst episodes. They were also some of the worst reviewed episodes of the first season.
Makes
Like, I
sense.
think no one really liked the Slitheen's.
Which is odd because wasn't there like practically
There's
an apocalypse happening?
Yeah, and like I feel like that one is just pure setup
Yeah.
to be like, oh, well, like here's what's going on. Here's what you missed on Glee.
Glee.
Like here's what you missed with the Slitheen's. So yeah, I think that they were
Hmm.
also like one of their forays into newer bad guys. I think that was like their
Mm.
first big bad that had been created, and
Hmm.
so interesting choice to like make it just an extended fart
Yeah,
joke.
I don't know about that.
Um, and then we get the introduction of, the future prime minister,
Hmm.
uh, which I do enjoy her so much in the
Yeah,
first episode. She is very funny. She just wants people to take her seriously. Um,
she's trying so hard.
she's trying so hard. Uh, Harriet Jones, MP. But yeah, so those but I was really shocked by this because all I remember is I didn't like those episodes. And then
Hmm.
when we do have the conversations with the Doctor and the Slitheen of like, where do you get off sentencing me to death? Doesn't this make you just as bad as
Hmm.
I was?
And he's like, no.
You're one person and you're kind of evil. And she's like, yeah, and no one on this earth is evil. And he's like, I still don't care.
Love it.
um But yeah, so those were some of the worst ones. But did you have any like standout favorite episodes, like a favorite villain?
Honestly, like the Daleks just stand out in my mind because they're so ridiculous. They're so ridiculous. I just
Exterminate, exterminate.
they they really just are too much. And I will say though that the episode where it's like World War II and what is I can't even remember. It's like something that's meant to
It's
save the
called
world. It's like
uh
these nanobite
yeah,
things.
that is The Empty Child and the Doctor Dances. It's a two-part episode. It's
Yes.
9 and 10.
Yes.
Yes.
That I don't know if I would classify that as like a villain of sorts because it had an
An
intention of healing.
antagonist, but
Yeah,
like, yeah,
a misunderstood
yeah,
antagonist.
yes.
But that I think was very haunting to kind of get through a lot of that. I also thought that the episode with Charles Dickens, that was kind of
Hmm.
haunting too, with a lot of,
Yeah,
I think a lot of the undead zombie type things, they did quite well, like almost bordering on horror
yes.
versus some of the other like apocalyptic type things didn't seem as scary as some of their horror undead zombie things.
So I will tell you that the nanobite one was one of the scariest episodes I remember watching on my first watch, and
Mm.
it's the one that I think about the most. Like I just always
Hmm.
think about the like, are you my mummy? And I'm like, oh God, I don't
There's
like it.
something about children saying things that always seems to creep people out. Like
Hmm.
they have small children doing creepy things in a lot of scary movies,
Yes.
and it's effective. And I don't know why it is so effective, but then that also was just a very uh, complicated episode, or two episodes. For some
Yes.
reason, I'm like blending that into one episode in my
It's
mind.
because it goes by like it is a longer, like, because it is a two-part episode, but it feels like one because it's a
But
pretty
when you get the
like
backstory of it all, it's
mhm,
like, kind of a gut punch, pretty deep.
yeah.
But also, like, the part where the doctor who's trying to figure out like why these people are having this going on with them, like that is terrifying. Like the animation in this show is not that great in this
No.
series, but that specific animation was horrifying.
Well, because it's a kid wearing a gas mask like that they
No,
can't take
his like
off.
face becomes a gas
Oh, yeah,
mask.
that part. Okay, yeah. No, that
That
is
was
very
for
scary.
the not the Doctor Who, the the doctor who is trying to take care of these people in this hospital wing.
Right. Got it.
Ugh.
No, got it. No, and that's like the episode that I feel sticks with me the most is
Mhm.
that one because of the backstory. Because like I fundamentally remember the moment where it's revealed that like the sister is the mom, and it was
Yeah.
like kept secret because of the time period.
Hmm.
And like it's so sad to know that like these nanotechnology were just trying to heal the
And they just
child and
really
like
misunderstood that this was a
mhm,
dying child, that
yes.
and so then they basically like went and thought that they were going to heal the world, and they
Yeah.
started
Just taking
like
over
imprinting
everyone.
everyone that way, and that was incorrect.
Yes. And I will also say that your other favorite one is also another favorite of the season. It is a standout. The Unquiet Dead. I really liked that one because like I remember that also freaked me out. It's like the third
Hmm.
episode of the series. I wasn't really sure what to expect. And a lot of people love Gwyneth, who is
Oh, like the
the
vessel.
medium person. Yes, the
Yeah,
vessel. A lot of people like really glommed onto her throughout history of Doctor
interesting.
Who and we're like, "Oh my gosh, yes, I loved her." And I did really like that character upon rewatch because she's
I guess
just
I
like
didn't feel that much of a connection to her, but okay.
I it's one that sticks with it because like I think because she self-sacrificed herself like and
Hmm.
it is during because the previous episode is the episode where we find out that like the doctor is the last of his kind
Yeah.
and he's a little bit
Should we
more
just like
like
go through the episodes
yeah,
briefly and tell what they are? Because
yeah.
I,
So
I feel like we're getting a little out of order.
I mean, I don't mind just chit-chatting, but like we have episode 1, Rose. The villain
Hmm.
is the Autons. It's a mannequin one. I remember
Yeah.
being so creeped out by the way they made Mickey look in that episode. I was like, what is
This
this?
is
I
my
don't
least
like
favorite
it.
episode of the entire thing. Honestly, the first episode I did not think was great.
Well, and it's I mean,
You
it's a
really have to push
reintroduction.
through.
Like it's just one where you have to learn
Hmm.
who the doctor is. You have to learn that there's a conspiracy about
It's
him
so
and no
much
one
setup,
knows. And
and
yes,
the
very
mannequins
little
are
pay
dumb.
up. But the mannequins are also a throwback because they were originally created in the 1970s. So I'm pretty sure it was like
Oh,
fan service to get people bought
okay.
in to be like, oh, this is just what you watched, you know.
Okay.
And it introduces Rose as the, first iteration of the companions. Then
Hmm.
we have episode 2, The End of the World. That is when he takes her to the end of Earth
Which
with,
bad Michael Jackson joke is made.
oh my gosh, Lady
Oh,
Cassandra. Oh,
Lady
just
Cassandra is like the last human,
pure
and
human. So
she's
like
had
she
like
has no
9,000 plastic surgeries, so she's
mhm.
like a
She's
sheet of skin.
yes. And it's one of and it's this is the first appearance of psychic paper, which will play a part
Hmm.
in everything, which is it was very smart to do. Where it's like,
Yeah.
why does the doctor get to be in any scenario? There is psychic paper that looks exactly like what he needs to get
Hmm.
into the door. It also talks about the time war.
It's also when they swap gifts and he
He
just
gives them
breathes
the
on
air from the
everyone.
breath. Yeah,
And
I
then
actually
somebody spits on him, and I was like, okay, well, you know what? That's a fair trade. You just have breathed all your
I
breath all
actually
over them.
love that that was his gift because I
What
remember
a weird
Rose
thing.
being so like grossed out by it. Everyone was like, "What a wonderful gift!" Because they were like tree people. I actually
Well,
was very
that one it
like,
made sense for, but then the other ones he starts doing that too,
I know,
also that are lined up, and I was like, oh, they all get the same gift. They don't get something more
I know.
specific.
It's no, they don't get anything more specific.
Because those tree people, they gave him something like one of their people or something like that.
Yeah, it was very strange, but It's also the first time we hear Bad Wolf, which is like a huge
Yes.
overview of the series.
Yes.
There's
It's
also
mentioned all the time
yes,
afterwards, so you got to pay
yes,
attention.
you had to pay attention. And it also mentions universal translation capabilities of the
Mhm.
TARDIS. So as long as you're close to the TARDIS or the TARDIS
Yes.
is functioning, you should be able to understand people. Everyone is
That's
talking
what
with a
she's like.
British
Does
accent.
everyone know English? And he's like, no.
No, like, and then the third episode is The Unquiet Dead. That is the historical event, Charles
Mhm.
Dickens.
That's the back in time.
This is actually the first time they really, not the first time, but as one of the first times they've actually shown the historical figure. They usually just mention them off screen, like, oh yeah, the doctor's totally
I
hung
will
out.
say something that I generally never like is when they bring in a historical figure like this. I don't know why I can't stand it. I'm just like, did we need to have him involved?
It's always
And
so weird because they're always like curmudgeonly. Like they're never a good hang. They're always
well,
just
and then
like,
he's
I
like,
guess I'm here.
well, and at the
Like,
end of it, he's like, please tell me, does anyone ever care about my books? And it's like, oh my
yeah.
gosh.
I
Of
mean,
course, we have to bring up like, yes, Charles Dickens,
it's
you're
like the
very
joke of
successful later.
that's they do have a better version of that in future seasons that I won't spoil, but
Okay.
um there it reminds me of like there's always the joke about the like, have you heard about this new crazy fad? They're calling it basketball. Like
Oh
when
my
you're in a
gosh.
period piece.
Yeah,
Um
that's the kind of
but
stuff that I get
but
annoyed with.
this is like that is the back in time episode. So we went into the future, then we go back into the past, and then we go back to episode 4 and 5, which is again
Hmm.
the Slitheen episode, farting aliens,
This is so
pigs running
ridiculous.
around for
They're like
no
pigs
reason.
in a zip-up suit
But they're
thing.
not pigs in a zip up suit. They're
It's
actual
weird.
aliens, but for some reason a pig runs out of one of them for no
Well,
apparent reason.
I
Like it
I
just
are we sure that it's not pigs though, that they look like pigs? I can't
I don't
I'm
think they
not
look
sure.
like pigs, but it
Okay.
was
Why
just
did a
like
pig come out of them?
I think they were hiding a human, like the fact that they murdered a human with a pig in a human suit. I never
Hmm.
understood
I
that.
don't get
That's
that at
just
all. I was
me.
thinking that they looked like pigs, I
No,
guess.
they don't look like pigs. They look like what they
Oh.
looked like, that weird little bug-eyed thing.
Yeah,
Um,
that's true.
so like this
I
is
don't
their
know.
first,
Weird.
like, we created a new alien. Look at it. And then uh it's also to show that Rose has now been gone for a year instead of 12 hours.
Yeah, just
Whoops a
kind of showing the
daisy.
passage of time.
Yeah, and then we have the episode Dalek, where the Daleks are introduced.
Hmm.
And then episode 7, The Long Game. It's where they go to that weird planet where Adam, who is
Oh
a
yeah.
he gets like the eyeball in his
This
head
is
that
the
like
one,
gives
isn't
him
this
all the
where there's
smarts.
like an underground, like creepy museum? No, no,
The
no, no. That
that's
that's
the
not it yet.
Dalek one.
That's the Daleks. Yep.
That's the Dalek.
Yep.
In that
But
episode, the
then they
Daleks are
take Adam
human
with
beings.
them.
Then they take Adam with them
Yes.
because Rose needs a boyfriend. I do
Yeah.
appreciate that, again, they do not make Rose and the
The
Doctor
doctor,
actual romantic
boyfriend,
interests,
girlfriend.
and they do
Yes.
have them have actual legitimate interests in other
Yes.
people throughout the first series. I think that was a
Yes.
smart move. Um,
Same.
and the villain of that is the editor or Jugafress. That is
Hmm.
Simon Pegg. He was very excited to be in
Yes,
the
I remember
episode.
who
Yes.
what this episode is now. Simon Pegg.
Uh,
Yes.
and then we have
Shaun
the
of the
episode.
Dead.
And then we have episode Father's Day. This is pretty much Rose is the villain, where Rose finally
And some
like
of the
has
worst animation.
so bad. Why are they
Oh
like
my gosh.
dragons?
Why did they have to
Uh,
have that in there where they're like, don't look at baby version of yourself, Rose. A bad animated dragon's gonna come in. I was like, why, Rose? You really made us all suffer.
She really did. And so this is Rose is the villain because she finally affects the timeline. She finally makes a mistake. They kind of wanted to show Rose as the imperfect companion by this point. And
I wouldn't
they
necessarily say she's a villain. Just
I
I
know,
think I
but
like
like if we have
better
like
way you said where she makes a mistake.
yes, she makes a
She's no
mistake.
longer a perfect angel.
I broke these down on who was the villain of each episode, and I'm like,
Oh,
well,
okay,
Rose
gotcha.
is the villain of this episode.
Fair enough.
And it is left ambiguous because she and the doctor have a fight where he asks if this was the only
Hmm.
reason she wanted to come back to save her dad from his untimely death. Um, even though her
Well,
dad
she
kind
wanted
of
to just be with him, I think
yeah.
was what it was. She felt bad that he died alone.
So she originally wants that, but then she saves him, and then
Yeah.
he kind of like the doctor asks her up front, like, was that your goal
Hmm.
all along? And she doesn't really answer straight, give him a
Right.
straight answer, and it's left ambiguous on purpose to kind of let that go, you know?
I will
And
say
then,
though, like I kind of interpreted it, maybe you interpreted it differently, but I interpreted it as like in that moment she changed her mind. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
if you're in that, you might have the intention of being there with someone when they die, but if in that moment you have the opportunity to just actually save your father, you probably would do it.
Well, and I think that that's also where
A
I'm
lot of
like,
adrenaline
well,
and emotions are running
I'm
rampant.
I'm someone who I can see it either way. Like I could see it where like you have it in your head where you're like, that's not why I'm doing this, but you also know that that's why you're doing it. You're just giving
Mhm.
yourself the option to say that because you know it will affect the timeline. Um, but it's an interesting episode to
She
kind of
also
show.
like gives a little more like she knows it's going to affect the timeline, but at the same time, she's like, how can one person, like, he's not a big figure in the world, like, how can he affect the timeline?
He's
Like,
just my dad, and
it's
it
not that big of
affects
a deal.
everything.
And so I don't know that she fully understands the
Right.
consequences of it either. So I don't know. I feel like it's really difficult to interpret that episode.
Yeah. And I mean, it's also the episode of like, well, we can't deal with the time. We can't break the
Yeah.
timeline up. And she's like, we affect the
Again,
timeline
set
all the
up.
time. And he's like, yeah, if the TARDIS approves it. Like, that is a huge
Again, set up.
overlapping
And
thing
then,
of,
like, we also have a plot witch with the
yeah, there's
TARDIS.
always a plot witch, and it is the TARDIS, and
Hmm.
she decides when things get to be changed.
The TARDIS
Um,
knows, and the TARDIS lets us understand other people. And yeah,
Yes, the TARDIS is a plot witch. And so then we have The Empty Child, of course, which is a
yes.
two-parter with the Doctor dances. That is the introduction of Jack Harkness. Um,
Who I
and
could have lived without. did
he
did we need him too much? I don't know.
I always loved Jack for like what he brings, which is like an air of
Handsome?
like
Oh,
nonsensicalness. Like I
oh,
think
okay.
sometimes it's good to have a person there who's like, yeah, I was just trying to blackmail you, but it was like a little blackmail. It wasn't a big blackmail. And like I do enjoy having someone like that who kind of
Hmm.
just there for the ride. Um and then we have Boomtown, which is the third Slitheen
Yeah.
episode where the TARDIS is opened for the first time
This
and
one's
we
kind of
find
cool because
out.
it's like they're trying to use it as like fuel, basically,
Mhm.
right? Yeah.
Yes. And
And
it's we
everything
find out like
backfires.
how important the TARDIS is. The TARDIS is
Hmm.
literally able to degenerate Margaret into an egg. And
Into
so
a
she,
creepy egg with like limbs on it.
yes,
Ew.
and she gets another opportunity to be a better person. And then we have just like out of nowhere the episode Bad Wolf.
I also did
Uh
not like this episode. It seemed so random where it was like we're in Big Brother and
I mean,
the
it's
weakest link.
reeking of 2005. Like if you
Yes.
were in 2005 and those were all big, I think it's
I
like, oh, this
guess
is. And
it just
honestly,
seems so random to me.
rewatch, I had a good time. Like I remember I didn't love it at first
Yeah,
either,
maybe
but
it's just
on
a first
rewatch
time
you're
watch. You're
like
just like, no.
okay, this is a weird episode. And also like the Daleks are the big bad of reality television. What are you talking about?
That was enjoyable, but it's just because I'm like so pro Dalek.
But also, it makes me so sad because like a whole thing was like the doctor sacrificed his entire society to kill
Yes.
all the Daleks. And then they just keep showing up like
Yep.
a bunch of assholes.
They're like
Like,
cockroaches. You
yeah.
cannot get rid of the
And I
Daleks.
every time they pop up, I'm like, but you're supposed to be I understand that they wrote themselves into a corner.
Yeah.
And they're like, but we want to bring the Daleks back because they're a great crowd pleaser. But also, you murdered all of the Time Lords, and they're still not there. So it's unfortunate.
It's funny though. It's really
It's
funny.
funny though. I just always feel bad when, like, in this episode, there's like 20 of them, and I'm like,
Oh
but
yeah, there's
they're
so
supposed to be
many.
dead.
And he's
What
like,
are you
I thought you
talking
were
about?
all gone. Wow. It's
Um,
so great.
and so yes, that is the Big Brother episode where the doctors just and
Yeah.
none they cannot remember why they're there. Everyone keeps getting it like taken away, but not really because they just go to
Hmm.
where the Daleks are. So they're even
Well, they
bad
thought they were being like
murderers.
killed.
Yeah, but they're
And
just
it's
bad
they're like,
murderers.
no, we're just gonna put you over here in this other room or something. Like
It was
you're in
so
holding. Go backstage.
nonsensical because like Daleks do love murdering people. That's kind of their
Yeah.
whole vibe. So why wouldn't they be incinerating them? And they were like,
Thank
ha
you,
ha ha
learning that the
ha.
Daleks are a peaceful people.
And then
I
we
will say
have
though, keep going. Do the last
no, no,
episode.
no. And then we have the parting of ways because in the last episode, the doctor sends Rose away. And this is the episode
Hmm.
where Rose opens the TARDIS, consumes like what's in it as fuel. And we find out that she is the bad wolf and she has been scattering hints for
Yes.
them all along to like bring her to this moment. And she takes down all the Daleks. They
All the
leave
Daleks
Jack.
are gone, and she's
and
just like emanating all this power.
and she has all this power, but she cannot wait to take Jack with them. He has to stay behind.
That was baffling to me that they left.
They just leave him. They said that that was like a very specific choice because they knew that the doctor was about to be regenerated and they wanted Rose to react to it, but they were like, Jack would be totally chill about it. So he has to leave because like he can't be there helping her through this.
Like leave him like running like, oh wait for me, like oh
Oh
my
God.
gosh.
This is where we get the terrible line. Looks like you need a doctor. And then
Yeah, and a really
he
awkward
s-
kiss that
he
they don't have.
smooches the energy out of her.
Yeah, he sucks all that out and it looks uncomfortable, honestly. Like I wasn't a big fan of their
And
kiss.
then he disappears and it's David Tennant.
Yeah.
And David
David
Tennant's
Tennant's like,
portion
I am
was
David Tennant and I am attractive and charming in a way that the last Doctor was not. And also, I'm going to be putting the moves on you, Rose Tyler.
pretty much immediately. And
Yes.
so his portion was filmed much later without Billy Piper there, but so
Interesting.
yes, because like I think they had probably picked the doctor by like I mean it
Okay.
was probably in talks,
Okay.
but it's also like a huge secret whenever the doctor gets revealed. Like there's always like talks and they always think they know.
Interesting.
But it's kind of like a James Bond thing where it's a huge
Hmm.
deal to like be considered for the doctor. Um so yeah. Um
I was just
that's
gonna say before we get too far off Daleks, when they reveal
Laura,
what they're
welcome to
actually
the Dalek.
like inside those metal contraptions, they're so sad. I mean,
I know.
they're very vulnerable and like goo-like, and it's very sad to see them.
I mean, they're just a little octopus guy.
Kind of little
Yeah.
mollusk type thing,
Yeah.
but
So
not as sturdy. They look
no, they're
more goo-like.
floppy. Um, they are very interesting. It's so funny to like have a big bad created way back when, and then they're like, but we have to take it incredibly seriously in 2005.
It's so funny though because like when was Community created? Because it could not have been too much longer after this. And the Community makes fun of Doctor Who with Professor Spacetime
Yeah,
and the
Community happened in
Blorgons, which are Daleks.
2009.
Yeah,
Uh,
so 4 years later.
yeah. I mean, everyone knew that they're very silly. Like, you
But
can't,
it's so funny though.
they're just trash cans.
Yes. Hannah, what
um,
were some of your favorite episodes?
so I would say that this time around, my favorites were probably the same as yours. So the Empty
Okay.
Child and the Doctor Dances. I also very much liked uh I don't love the Unquiet Dead episode as a whole, but I really liked the villains in it, and I did
Hmm.
really like Gwyneth in it, so I liked parts of it. Um, but that you're right, that it like really goes good when it's horror, because I feel like sometimes
Yeah.
with horror you can let things be a little bit sillier, where sci-fi you want them to be technologically um, sound.
Things
I
have to
would
be flowing and a little more like clean, if that makes
yes.
sense. But
Yes.
horror, it's almost like they're not afraid to get a little gritty and things get a little wild and not be perfect.
I also really did like the back and forth in Boomtown.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
like I just think that they had really good dialogue throughout it. It's also the episode where you kind of have like Rose coming to terms with her own choices.
Yeah.
And like I think that's really effective to see how it could affect a human. Like
Hmm.
because I really like that episode because at the beginning it's like it's just the doctor, Rose, and Jack kind of in their own little world having fun
Hmm.
and being like, isn't this so great that we are us? Like,
Right.
and then they kind of get brought back down because Rose has to talk to Mickey, who's like, hey, I'm seeing someone.
I feel
And
like Mickey and Rose's mom are kind of the draws back to
mhm,
like Rose's reality.
yes. Yes. And like that's it where like the mom's like, "Well, I'm worried about you all the time. Like you just
Hmm.
disappear. I can't talk to you. I have no way of contacting you. Like I don't know if you're dead. I
Except
don't know if
if
you're
she wants to
alive."
make a cell phone call
Yeah.
sometimes.
Sometimes. Not all the time, but sometimes. Uh Rose is just terrible at calling collect.
Yeah, she's like, oops.
But like and then like Mickey being like, "Hey, I'm seeing someone like
Hmm.
if
I'm not gonna wait
I'm
around for you forever.
yeah, I can't do that. Like, it's not okay for you to just blaze in and out and think like I should just be your boyfriend." So I think that those were really like interesting takes. And then I really liked the doctor's discussions with Margaret about like, well, what gives you the right? And he's like, well, I'm the doctor. And she's like,
Yeah,
that's not a reason.
very
Um,
fair.
and I think the ending is also interesting of like rebirth. Like
Yes.
it's kind of leading into the fact that the doctor's about to have rebirth, where it's like you
I
get
really
another
appreciated the way
chance.
that they explained it too.
Hmm.
I thought that that was perfect setup.
Yes. And so I really liked Boomtown. And the reality TV show is a bop of an episode to me on rewatch. I didn't like it the
I,
first time.
I didn't
Uh,
feel it this time, but
but
that
I
maybe I should rewatch it.
I really and like I just felt I love the Bad Wolf storyline, but I
Yeah.
forgot kind of what a slog it is to get through in the final episode. Like it kept being
I
like,
will say that this is definitely a show where you cannot like tap out. You
no.
have to be paying attention and you have to like watch all these things because some like stuff like that, they're dropping hints all
Mhm.
throughout that you have
Yeah.
to be paying attention to.
And so, but like, I forgot how much of it is just like Rose being like, I have to get back to the doctor. And like, okay, can we just get her back to the doctor
Oh my
already? Like,
gosh.
I'm done with it. But like,
He needs my help.
I really liked Billy Piper's acting when it's like, I am the bad wolf. Like, I thought that was really cool. Like,
Yeah,
I
that was
just,
very
yeah.
well done.
And so I really liked that setup and payoff. I remember I was always really
Hmm.
impressed when that happened on the TV show, but that's probably my least favorite. Like it was just well,
Hmm.
the Slitheen is like my least favorite, but I forgot how
Yeah.
much of a slog it is to get through the parting of ways to like get to the actual plot. It's a lot of like, well, we're all gonna die, and it's like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, that could be a lot faster though. So,
Hot
um,
take, I think the first episode is my least favorite
that's
because
fair.
then the rest of the season we get into more of the science fiction of it all. And
That's very fair.
I feel like I prefer that.
I always did like the first episode though, because like I didn't realize until I was researching for this episode that the mannequins were already a like
Yeah.
villain. And so I remember being like, that's just really
That's a
funny that
neat
she's just
callback.
yeah, that she's working in a department store and it's just
Hmm.
mannequin aliens. What a silly little thing. And I do think like sometimes on rewatch I get to appreciate the silliness of it where it's
Hmm.
like, oh, this is except for I'm just not a fart humor person.
I am, but
I
I
know.
was getting annoyed by that. Like
There was just too much of it. I just
it was like not well done for humor.
no, because like it's not even I think it would have been funny if they were farting and then they weren't giggling after every like if
Yes.
it was just like,
Yes.
hey, our skin suits make gassy noises.
Yes.
That is inherently funny. I would find that funny. But the fact that they were in on the joke, I was like,
Yeah.
you've made it not funny. Now you're just
When they
children.
point it out and it's not like an awkward like, oh, whoops
Yeah.
type thing. And yeah, I
Yeah. It's
wasn't
much
in on it.
funnier to watch people like fart and just be like, you didn't see anything. Like that is
Yeah.
funnier. So I would say that like I never liked those. But some of the episodes that I totally get why you don't like them because I remember when I first went through them, I'm like a little bit of a slog. But then on the rewatch, I'm like kind of a bop. But like I also wasn't fully paying attention at all times. And I
Yeah.
think that you don't have to. Like you're
Hmm.
not trying to
I don't
learn the
think you
world building.
realize like as you're watching it the first time, like, oh, this requires a lot of attention. Because
Right.
that was my fatal flaw. Like the first couple episodes, like, oh, wait, what happened here?
What's going
So,
on? Where did the pig come out of? I still don't
like,
know.
wait a minute, what? What's that pig about?
Um, I also think that like I liked the TV episode because of the long game episode. I thought like
Okay.
it was really effective callback to show that like dipping in and out of time because they're like,
Hmm.
well, you came many years ago and we were able to reach back out and
Hmm.
get you into this. And I was like, oh, that's interesting that like they're still in the same timeline, but they're getting like all these different moments of history. And I really liked that because like the
Yeah,
first
that's fair.
iteration was like news media and the second
Hmm.
iteration was reality television. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. I like
Yeah,
that.
a different perspective on television.
And like how television progresses in our time, which like it would have been getting into the more reality TV of it
Right.
all in 2005. Um, so yeah, I don't know. Were there any like standout moments for you in this first season?
Um,
The Daleks.
and the Daleks.
I'm just gonna say it for you.
I'm a huge fan of the Daleks. Honestly, I think the biggest standout is just the Doctor's performance. Like, I'm just such a huge fan of this Doctor.
That's good. I love that. And it should be like I kind of went over this, but Eccleston had a lot of conflict with the showrunners and other people at BBC while he was
Hmm.
on there. He has said that it led to such bad taste in his mouth. He has actually been in talks before to come back, and he will like kind of
Won't do it.
say, I can't do this. So it was pretty bad. It sounds like they worked him really hard and then they like used that as an excuse for why he was leaving, which was a lie.
That's
Don't
too
lie
bad.
for actors, you know.
Right.
And he said that he was blacklisted afterwards, but he has started going to conventions recently, and he
Hmm.
said that that's been really healing. He's actually done voice acting as the Doctor for like
Cool.
radio shows and radio dramas. So if you want more of Chris Eccleston, Laura, you can have him. He is on the
I
radio. So
might be able to get him on the radio.
yeah, and so that's important. Yeah, I this the season's weird because like it you have Rose and then you have like two other minor companions. And
Hmm.
I
I'm
like the
not a
character.
big fan of the minor companions, honestly. I'm
Yeah,
just like, get rid of them. Like, we don't need you.
I like Jack as a character, but I don't need him as a companion. Like I liked
I
his
don't need him there at
introduction,
all.
but I
Like
don't
him
need
and
him.
Adam, like goodbye. I
Adam
was
was
very annoyed with Adam,
Adam
like
was
when he
so
started tagging
dumb.
along because I was like, Rose, no, leave him. We don't want him. He was part of that creepy museum.
I did
No.
love the museum episode though, because like it felt like the villain in that was humanity and like or
Yeah.
rich people, like
It,
capitalism
it
all
is
along.
rich people. He says it right
Yeah.
at the beginning of that episode,
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, rich people are bad. Basically.
And guess what? They are bad because that guy was just a collector who like, although I will say David Eccleston or Chris Eccleston, why did I keep saying David? Chris
Lieutenant Chris
Eccleston,
Eccleston.
great acting, except when he's being tortured because that scene, I couldn't believe it. I was like, sir. Ah!
Yeah, not too good there.
Not great, but that's the one time I was like,
Tone
okay,
it down.
sure, tone it down. You're fine. You are making that up. You are acting.
Yeah.
But I did really like that episode because it kind of shows how much people like can dehumanize the
Hmm.
alien races. And even the Doctor himself dehumanizes Daleks.
Hmm.
And it was interesting that like the Dalek input like Rose's DNA into itself, and then it
Yeah.
kind of rewrote itself to
Yeah, it
say
did
like,
because it would if it didn't have her DNA, it wasn't going to have like the empathy and compassion that she has.
yeah. And I liked that like its answer was like, I'm not sure I can be trusted, like just
Hmm.
me. And I thought that was a really interesting take,
Yeah.
and pretty unique for a season one Doctor Who show that was just
Yeah.
like coming on the scene. So that was very interesting.
Yeah, totally agree.
Um,
But yeah, the companions, the extra ones, no,
No. But you did
don't
like the
want you.
Bad Wolf storyline. You liked
Yes.
that as a setup. Okay, good. Because some people find it very silly. And I'm like, I love that
I kind of like the
storyline.
Bad Wolf thing. I don't know, but
Yeah, there's something about it. Just like I am the bad wolf. And it's like,
yeah.
yeah. Um, I will huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house down. So um, yeah. Are there any other thoughts you have about season one of Doctor Who? Any
I'm
standouts other characters besides like Rose? Did you
sh
like
I did not like Mickey either, honestly.
Okay,
Like a
I was
lot of
gonna
these side
ask.
characters were just not hitting for me.
That's
And
very fair.
I the I should say the repeat side
Hmm.
characters, like the recurring characters, were not hitting for me. But the characters that were side characters, like in individual episodes, I enjoyed a lot more.
Yeah.
So, like the woman that was like the vessel that you said that everybody was
Hmm.
obsessed with, I did like her in that episode, but I don't know that I felt like she was so awesome.
Right.
But I felt like anytime Mickey would appear or Rose's mom, I was just kind of like, come on,
I feel a little bit.
please leave.
How did you feel about learning the context about Rose's dad and that he might have been a terrible person?
Uh that was strange. And
Yeah.
also just that whole episode had a lot of weird moments. Like even when he's like, "This is Rose," and she's like, "Really? You got another Rose? That when'd you have that one? And how many
When
women
you
you
were
got?"
12, I
Yeah.
did like that joke. When did you have her? When you were 12?
Like, what a
That's a good joke.
twisted thing to name your unborn child Rose after your
After your other child.
other child.
I what I appreciate about that episode was I liked that the dad had like a moment where he was like, what you're describing isn't me. I have the potential to become that, but I never
Hmm.
will. I did like the like discussion of like, well, who I am now is not who I could be in the future, but
Like progression
I'm
and what
never gonna
can
have
happen.
right. And so that's like the fact that we see Rose's mom kind of telling Rose a different story about her dad and like kind of painting this good picture. It's her trying to make sure her daughter doesn't hear all these bad things when like we
Yeah.
see her in the past and we see her in the current present day and she's pretty open and honest about stuff. So it does show that like
Hmm.
she's even grown a little bit from who she was in the past.
Right.
And I really did like that episode of just discussing like who you are fundamentally as a person at the
Hmm.
moment and knowing like, well, I could have been that person, but I don't think I would have been in like
Right.
the time period you're telling me. So you're not telling me the truth. I did really like that. And the fact that like he understands that this is his life and he has to go at that time to save
Hmm.
everyone else. I really enjoyed that type of storytelling where it was his choice
Yeah.
after all.
Yeah, I did prefer that where it was just like the mystery of it was gone, where it was like
Hmm.
he actually kind of consented to being like, no, I don't want to mess up with the timeline. Like, I need to go. This is the way it has to be done. And it kind of gives them all just a little more peace. They have closure
Hmm.
with everything. And it was appreciated.
It's also really sad because then like in the future you learn like they did affect some of it where like
Well,
Rose
like a
is like
15-year-old kid was driving or something like, wasn't that it?
yeah,
Like a new driver or something like that. A
yeah,
16-year-old hit him and
I forget what happened, but I did love that like at one point Rose is talking to her mom and she's talking about all the good things that they did. And she was like, "Don't you remember?" And like originally the story was he died by himself. He was
Mhm.
all alone. And she was like, "Mom, don't you remember you used to tell me dad had someone with him? I was there." And I was like, "That's really
Yeah.
sweet and
Yeah,
hard to
because she was like,
hear."
they said that this girl was there, blah blah blah,
Hmm.
blah, and that she
Yeah.
stayed with him, and like, ugh,
And so we get to find out that like it is, yeah, so I did like that where you kind of get to learn more and
yeah,
get to see how like the timeline could be changed a little but not too much.
hmm.
um it was interesting. So that but I didn't love the episode, like it
That one
felt
was
very
one that I was
like
just kind of like meh on, I think. But the more that we
yeah,
talk about it, I'm like, yeah, there were quite a few deeper things happening there.
there was good dialogue during that episode, like
Hmm.
Rose and the doctor talking about like was this.
Terrible animation.
Yes, terrible animation, but him being like, "Is this what you wanted all along?" And her like not answering, and there's like that weird
Hmm.
unspokenness between them. And I liked that. I like the discussion with her and her dad and like the realizations. But the episode overall, make it's some
Mm.
of these episodes, you're just like, I can feel. I was shocked that this was 13 episodes upon rewatch. Like I don't
It was a
remember
lot.
13 episodes of this. And I kept being like, I'm still here. Like
Yeah,
I remembered moments, but it does feel like some of these episodes could have been collapsed into each other and been a
sure.
little bit shorter. Um, did
It is a
we?
lot of like world expansion though that I think they're dealing with.
Mhm.
So
And I
I
do.
can get why they're trying to stretch out the episodes and kind of show like this is the power that the TARDIS has. This
Mhm.
is a different species. We're going to drag this out. This one's going to be tied into this. So they
And
were
this
kind of playing
did
around with it a little bit.
feel very much like a first season of a
Hmm.
sci-fi where they're like, well, we have to show a future episode. We have to
Yes.
show an episode in the past. We have to show Rose's backstory. We have to show the big bads three times.
Yeah.
We have to
A big
show.
swing,
Mhm.
honestly, to do it this way.
Yeah, because they really just have a lot in there. So,
Hmm.
but overall, Laura, how would you rate the first season of Doctor Who?
How am I rating it?
How are you rating it?
No, I'm asking
Oh,
you, like, how are we rating this?
let's just
Like,
rate it out of 10. Like out of
out of
10,
10?
what's your score?
I would say maybe like a 6.5 or a 7.
I think I'm at a 7.5 or an 8. But that's because I love the show. So you have to remember that I'm coming into it with
Here's my
rose-colored
thing.
glasses.
I am
Rose-colored
still having a hard
glasses.
time getting over I do not have the sentimental attachment, but
Yeah.
I'm also having a hard time getting over the oldness of it all,
Yeah.
which I and the bad animation, which I
Yeah.
think is tricky for me, and really just the performance of Chris Eccleston is
So
what
good
bumps
that
me up
you're,
to like a
yeah.
7. So,
You have to remember that I watched the show when I was in either college or law school, can't remember which. But also it was during a time where like I was all about the romance. So like the second David Tennant hit, I was like, I caramba, yes, I'm a huge fan. And so watching back, I'm like, oh, I'm watching as an adult, and there is a difference.
sure.
Where like you're just sitting there and you're like, ew, don't kiss each other. That's
Yeah.
gross. She doesn't need a doctor like
Wasn't too
that.
much
No,
into
thank
that,
you.
but
Um, Also, Context Corner, I just want to note it for our listeners to know that we're aware. John Barrowman who played Jack Harkness, he has been known to expose himself to coworkers throughout his time. It's always been bawdy in nature, at least like those are all the stories that get told where it's like, oh, I just thought it was funny that I was exposing myself to
that's still
coworkers.
inappropriate.
Still inappropriate. It wasn't sexual in nature, but it was inappropriate, and he doesn't seem to have been he seems to have apologized, but it's one of those like,
Hmm.
well, it was a different time, and it's like,
Doesn't
there's a
matter.
lot of context to that. And then there has been an article that came out against Noel Clark, who played Mickey, that
Okay.
for harassment. 21 women came forward, but he
Oh
is
my.
currently suing for defamation, saying only one of those instances was in fact accurate, and it was painted in an incorrect light, and that is still ongoing.
Hmm.
But they have allowed it to go forward. So they're allowing the defamation lawsuit to say like it wasn't accurately
Hmm.
reported to go forward. So we don't know. And obviously you want to believe women, but also, make sure that you're listening and keeping aware of those types of things.
Okay.
So but that was just something I wanted to note.
Yeah.
Because we always want to make sure that we're being thoughtful about what we are
Yeah. Yeah.
watching and interpreting. So, but yeah, 7.5, 8, Laura, 6.5, 7. I'm glad you're enjoying it at least, even if you have to get
It's
past
definitely a
some of
series that
the,
I continued. Like it
yeah.
wasn't, and I think a lot of it is just the curiosity that I have for the show because
Mhm.
it is such a hyped show and people have loved it for so long that I was just like, I gotta see what this is about.
I actually can't wait for you to get to the I'm not gonna spoil like
Hmm.
like storylines, but I can't wait for you to get to the Donna companion because I actually think
Okay.
you're gonna be a huge Donna fan.
Okay.
But that's just my theory because like, certain personalities hit certain different ones. And
Hmm.
I do think that you'll be like kind of a Donna, a little bit zanier, like a little bit more um, you know.
What season is that
Uh
or series?
Donna comes on pretty soon. She is part of the David Tennant
Okay.
um era. I believe she's or series 4, I want to say.
Okay.
Um and so she's
So we'll
fun.
be back talking about that at some point because I have intentions to cover more of the seasons of Doctor Who,
Yes.
but we
Yeah,
just wanted to
well,
do like one season at a time because there's so much to cover.
there's so much to cover. And it also, like, I don't know. I feel
Well,
like
you
this
had
is like,
suggested at one point, like, let's do seasons one or series 1 and 2, and I was just like, that seems like a lot. Let's just do
well,
series one.
and also, like, I don't know. There are so many series of this. So, like, I think these are good ones for Laura and I to do. Like, maybe we will have people come on to, like,
Mhm.
discuss if it's, like, one of their favorite series or, different things. But it's fun to check in with just each other on these. And we're
Sure.
hoping to have TV Tuesdays with
Some
friends
friends.
and fans and all the in between. But these are just supposed to be moments where Laura and I don't get the opportunity to do deep dives into
Yeah, we
TV
don't get
shows
to
all the
talk
time
about TV shows in too much depth, but
unless we go for 2 hours on episodes. But
unless I bring up like, I never remember watching a cartoon that had any kind of deep topics.
and then we
Hannah
go on for an
immediately
hour.
slams with all sorts of
I
90s
never
TV
said
that
you
had it.
were wrong. I was just saying, well, we did have them. But
My memory is gone.
uh but yeah, so I can't wait for that. We'll be talking more Doctor Who from time to
Yeah.
time. We're not really sure how often we can do these. Laura and I keep trying to start something, and then we're like, we're gonna do it slowly. We don't want to
Yeah.
like burn ourselves out on these types of series.
Yeah,
So,
we hope you enjoy the
um,
TV Tuesdays, but I wouldn't say that we're going to be having them like they're not going to be once a week just because
no,
that's too much for us.
it's too
But we're
much.
hoping to maybe like once a month-ish
Once a month, or
get a TV Tuesday in.
if we can eventually do this more consistently and not have so many jobs in our lives, we
Sure.
could maybe do it twice a month, but once a month is really the goal. So,
Sure.
but yeah, but make sure you're reaching out on these. You can definitely
Let us
comment
know
in
what other shows we
Spotify.
should be doing TV
Yes.
Tuesdays on.
Join us on Discord where we talk about TV all the time.
Yes.
Hannah just got to go into Sex and the City in depth, and it was my
Ah,
favorite. So, I love talking TV. Laura loves talking TV. So let us
yes.
know what we should cover. All right.
And
Thanks.
be
Oh,
sure that
yeah.
you're following us
Oh, I'm
also
sorry.
on
I didn't.
our pod at OWWR Pod on all the
I could do
socials.
this part. I didn't realize I was like, well, it's like a bonus episode. But make sure you're following us on all social platforms. We are on everywhere at OWWR Pod. You can also check out our blog where we're doing some amazing author highlights right now. And that
Mhm.
is owwrpod.com.
We also have an
Um,
email, ourpod@gmail.com.
Email us if you so choose. So you can really find us anywhere. We're fully available to you.
Yeah.
Check us out on TikTok. I'm posting
Yes,
episode
Hannah's been doing a
highlights
lot of
over on
stuff.
TikTok. So make sure that you are following us there as well if you are a TikToker. And join us tomorrow as we continue our year of the Dresden. You guys get so much
So
bonus,
much Harry Dresden.
so much Laura and Hannah this week. All right.
Enjoy.
Bye.
Bye.